Have you ever wondered how the first murder in the history of the world was committed and why and who did it? Well, today in Doctrine Deep Dive with DK, we're going to dive deep into Genesis 4 and explore how the first murder in the history of the world was committed and why and the ramifications of that to this very day. Okay, so quick review, quick recap. You might remember that in school. Quick recap. So far, we talked about the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, the first humans ever created, and why they were created and their purpose and where they were, the Garden of Eden. And we're talking about how everything was perfect, it was peaceful, it was protected, it was a lot of provision and purpose all in one place. But this one grave decision, this one grave mistake by Adam and Eve to disobey God's command set the world on fire, and a whole domino effect of sin and disobedience continued to repeat throughout the history of the world. So when Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden, they were banished from their place of protection and peace and provision and purpose. They were banished out. They had Cain and Abel. And that's where our story picks up today. It picks up on the beginnings of Cain and Abel, the first children ever born into this world. Here we go. Genesis 4. Now Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain. And this is what Eve said. I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now, Abel was a keeper of sheep and Cain a worker of the ground. Let's stop there. That was a lot. So Adam and Eve knew each other. That's a biblical word for they had intercourse or relations, as your grandma may say. They had relations and they conceived Cain. And then they conceived Abel. Now, something to stop and pay attention to here is Eve's response to conceiving Cain. Now, remember, if you watch the other videos, I highly recommend you go on the channel, Doctrine Deep Dive with DK, and watch the other 3 videos. If you watch the other videos about Adam and Eve, when Adam was created out of the dust, he was formed out of the ground, God said it's not good for man to be alone. So then he formed and created Eve out of the rib of man. And he brought Eve to Adam, and Adam said, wow. And then he said it backwards. Wow. And then he said it upside down and backwards. Mom, wow. So he saw Eve and he said, wow, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. At last, I shall call you woman because you came out of man. So look at Eve's response when God blessed her with the son. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. You see that parallel? So Adam was grateful to God for Eve. Adam was grateful for God blessing him with a woman. And then when Eve was blessed with a son, she said, wow, God has given me a man in the form of a son. Thank you. And she acknowledged that that came from the Lord. Okay, just wanted to throw it in there. Okay, so, and again, she got another son. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now we get into their occupations. We get into what they did, right? Remember, when God was dishing out the heavenly punishments for disobedience, he told Adam that you will toil and work hard, and in pain you will work the ground, and by your sweat you shall toil to eat all the days of your life. So, Adam was a gardener. That was the first, I should say, assignment, the first job that God ever gave man, right? So we kind of see this continuing here. Okay, now Abel was a keeper of sheep. So Abel was the first shepherd, right? Abel was the first shepherd. Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain, a worker of the ground. So Cain picked up the traits of his father and work the ground. Remember, the first job Adam got was to work and keep the Garden of Eden. Okay, y'all tracking. Okay, cool. I got that from Myron Golden. Y'all tracking. Okay, cool. And Cain, a worker of the ground. And in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. Stop. So now we get into something interesting. We start to get into sacrificial offerings. Now, this is the first time in the Bible where sacrificial offerings are being given to the Lord. Now, remember, you have to pay attention. When you read the Bible, make sure you read it slow and make sure you read it very dramatic like I do so you can understand. Everything was good and perfect and peaceful, right? Adam and Eve disobeyed God. Now sin has entered into the world, and creation, as a result, all of creation is responding to that sin. All of creation is impacted and cursed because of that sin. So now that perfect connection and perfect relationship and perfect communion with God has been broken because of sin. So now man has to take an extra step to commune with God and to have a relationship with God and to be connected to God. And that extra step is through the action of sacrificial offering. Now, the Bible doesn't give us a whole lot of backstory about like when did God instruct them to do that. It doesn't give a whole lot of backstory. So don't overthink this stuff. When you read the Bible, read it like a story. Don't come into it with a whole lot of extra opinions and critiques. That's when you like get more of an understanding, and then you're trying to deepen your understanding. Right now, I want you to just read the Bible and read it as a story. So the next part of the story is that Cain and Abel had to give some type of sacrificial offering, right? Just make sure y'all follow me. Okay. And now Abel was a keeper of sheep. Abel was a shepherd. Cain, a worker of the ground. Cain was a farmer, basically. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. So Cain's offering to God was some of his crops. He brought his crops to the Lord. He brought his fruit, what he planted and what he harvested. He brought that to the Lord as his offering. Pay attention. And Abel brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. So Abel brought the firstborn of his sheep and their fat. He brought that to the Lord. Okay. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering, he had no regard. So the Lord was pleased by Abel's offering, but for Cain's offering, not so much. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin." Remember that word. It happened in the Garden of Eden first. Now what's about to happen here? Sin is crouching at the door. Its desire. Wait, sin has a desire? I'm just reading. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Let's stop there. This is a whole video, just these couple of scriptures. Okay, so let's recap. I want y'all to walk away from this video with a clear understanding of Cain and Abel. So next time you hear somebody talk about Cain and Abel, you can say, oh, I know, because Dr. Deep Dive with DK helped me out. If you're still watching, like and subscribe to the channel, please. Okay, cool. So the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry?" Abel gave God his offering. Cain gave God his offering. God was pleased with Abel's offering. God was not pleased with Cain's offering. Now listen, the Bible doesn't get into specifics about why. That's not important to us right now. We're just reading the text. The Bible doesn't give us specifics. I would, this is eisegetically speaking. Eisegetically speaking is when you eisegete, it's when you take from the text and you try to form like your own understanding. Exegetical is when you reading what the text says. I'm having an eisegetical moment right now. I believe that maybe God gave Cain and Abel some instructions about how to offer a sacrifice to him. I believe God maybe gave them some instructions and Cain didn't obey those instructions, which is why God was not pleased with his offering. That's eisegesis. That's just DK just kind of putting things together based on the text and coming up with a conclusion. But keep in mind, the Bible doesn't specifically say that. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. Okay, cool. Let's get back to the text. So, the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Cain was angry because God did not accept his sacrifice. So the Lord stepped in and said, hey, why are you angry? Why has your face fallen? Why the long face? So that means Cain was walking around like, and God said, hey, why has your face fallen? If you do well, won't you be accepted? So God is saying, if you do what I tell you to do, if you do what's good, if you do what I say, won't you be accepted? If you obey, won't you be accepted? But if you do not do what is well, if you disobey, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to yours, but you must rule over it. Wait a minute. God saw this happen before. He gave instructions to Cain and Abel's parents, Adam and Eve. He said, do not eat that fruit, the fruit of the knowledge of the good and evil, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Do not eat from that fruit. Do not eat from that tree. They did anyway. They sinned. And because of that sin, there were consequences. There were consequences. So God is trying to tell their children, Cain and Abel, he's trying to tell Cain in this moment, if you do what's well, if you do what's good, you'll be accepted. But if you don't, then you won't be accepted. And if you don't, sin is crouching at the door. Sin is waiting. It's waiting for an opportunity to rear its ugly head. It's about to happen again because of disobedience. That's the common denominator. Remember in school when you used to get frustrated and stressed out because of math class? Yeah, that's the common denominator. I do remember that part. The common denominator is disobedience, which is what? Say it with me. Sin. So God is saying sin is crouching at the door. Its desire, sin has a desire. I'm just reading the text. Sin has a desire. Yes, it has a desire. Its desire is contrary to yours. Your desire is to please me, but sin's desire is to not please me. Sin's desire is contrary to yours, but guess what? You must rule over it. So even though there's this thing out there called sin, and it wants to do the opposite of what you want to do, and it's a strong force, you must rule over that force. That's God's instructions. You must rule over it. We'll get into that in another video. Okay, cool. Let's get to the exciting part. This is when the drama and the action and all that type of stuff happens. I told y'all before, the Bible is not boring. You're about to witness right here on this channel at this moment. You're about to witness the first murder in the history of the world. I can't wait. Okay, cool. Cain, this is verse 8. This is Genesis 4, verse 8. Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Say, what? So Cain spoke to Abel, his brother. It doesn't tell us specifically what he said, but let's have a moment of eisegesis. I'm an actor, so I'm a little dramatic. Let's have a moment of eisegesis. So Cain said, hey, what's up, bro? And Abel's like, hey, Cain, hey, brother. I don't know why Abel talks like that. Hey, Cain, hey, brother, how's it going? And Cain's like, yeah, I saw that sacrifice you gave, and I saw that God was happy with it. I don't like that. Abel's like, Cain, why are you looking at him like that? Why is your face so fallen? Cain like, yeah, I don't like that. Boom! And then the murder, just that fast, boom! He killed Abel. It's like, what? Okay, cool. So, y'all like that? That was Oscar worthy right there. Okay, cool. Cain spoke to Abel. That whole demonstration I just did, place that into that. Cain spoke to Abel. Hey, I saw that offering you gave to God, and he liked it. And he ain't like mine. I ain't like that. Boom! Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel. That was the boom part, and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, wait, I got a question. This just came to me right now. Where was Adam and Eve doing all this? Okay, anyway. Okay. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? Now, we see this pattern a lot where God is asking questions that he knows the answer to. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God and they hid from themselves, God said, where are you? God knew where they were, but he was giving them a chance to respond. God said, where are you? Adam and Eve said, hey, we sinned against you. Sorry. We hid ourselves because we heard you walking in the garden and we are naked. And God said, who told you you were naked? Wait a minute. Did you eat from that tree that I told you not to eat from? So this is like a parent talking to his children. God is asking questions. You're a parent. You know the answer already, but you're asking your child to see what they're going to say. Okay, God is the father. He's a parent to these children. He's first children of the world. Okay, cool. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? He said, this is what Cain said to God. Now, Cain was bold for this. Smart mouth. Smart mouth children, it's like, what? Okay, Cain said to the Lord, I do not know. Wait a minute. This just came to me. Cain just lied. Just have a moment of silence. Cain just lied to God. So he just murdered Abel. The first murder in the world. Cain just murdered Abel. And his first response isn't repentance. Repentance means you're apologizing for doing what's wrong and you're trying to turn back and never do it again. His first response isn't a response of repentance. It isn't a response of remorse. It isn't a response of, Lord, forgive me. His first response is being smart at the mouth. Cain says, I don't know where Abel is. Am I my brother's keeper? That's what Cain said to God. Now, you hear that term a lot, brother's keeper. I'm my brother's keeper, brother's keeper. This is where it came from. Cain said that to God. I don't know. No, he didn't say it like that. He probably said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And God didn't even respond to his lie. God's like, boy, stop playing. I know you did it. God said, what have you done? This is verse 10. I'm not just making this stuff up. This is verse 10. And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood. The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. The blood of your brother, the one you just killed, his blood is literally crying to me from the ground. This is the first murder of the world. This is the first time creation has ever seen an action like this happen. This is the first time that a human being has been killed. So the blood, this is the first time that blood has ever been spilt from a human being on earth. So the earth received the blood of Abel. It's the first time. See, in 2025, we're so desensitized to violence and blood and murder that we don't understand the significance of this moment. This is the first time the earth witnessed murder. The Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. And now, this is that heavenly punishment that we saw in Genesis 3. And now, you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, remember, Cain was a worker of the ground, just like his daddy. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. This is a great punishment. This is a terrifying punishment. God said, now you are cursed from the ground. Wait, recap. God said to Adam, what have you done? Adam said, remember our dance? Remember our blame game dance? Adam said, it was the woman. God said to the woman, what have you done? The woman said, it was the serpent. God punished the serpent. You will crawl on your belly and eat from the dust all of your days. You will bruise the heel of the woman's seed, which is Jesus Christ, but he will crush your head. That's the serpent's punishment. Get out of here. He's done. Ladies, I ain't forgot about you. Your punishment. Now in pain, you shall bear forth children. In great pain, you shall bring forth children. Your desire will be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you. Get her out of the way. Not Adam, the first one I created. Because of you, the ground is now cursed. And you shall work hard and in pain for the rest of your days to produce something from it, because the ground is cursed. So now we go to Cain. Cain is next on this punishment thing. Now Cain, it's his time. Abel passed away. Rest in peace, Abel. He's not a part of this. Rest in peace. We're having a memorial service for you next weekend at 3 o'clock with a repast at the end. I think they're doing fried chicken and rice. Abel is gone. Cain, now you are cursed from the ground. Wait, so God cursed the ground because of Adam. Now Cain is cursed from that same cursed ground. And then he says, you will be a fugitive and a wanderer. And listen to what Cain said. Verse 13, Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me away today from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. So Cain realized, I just committed a murder, and now whoever finds me, they're going to kill me. Blood for blood, a life for a life. But listen to this, and I'm ending here. Listen to the sovereign mercy and grace and love from God. Even in Genesis 3:15, when God was cursing Adam and Eve and the serpent, even in the midst of his punishment, he gave us a redemption. The proto-evangelium. Genesis 3:15, the first time the gospel was ever preached is from the mouth of God. And he says, you will bruise his heel, but he will crush your head. Jesus Christ, you will bruise Jesus Christ's heel when he dies, but he will rise again and he will crush your head because he defeated death and he defeated the power of death. And through him, my creation will have redemption and will be reconciled back to me. That's the gospel. But look here, even in Cain's act of murder, God said, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest anyone who found him should attack him. Cain killed Abel. God punished Cain. But even in his punishment, God said, I'm putting a mark on you. You will have a hedge of protection around you. And if anyone kills you, they got to deal with me sevenfold. That's the mercy and the love and the grace of God. Listen, I'm getting too excited. That was the story of Cain and Abel. Thank you all for sharing this moment with me. I hope that you please like this video, comment on the video, let's have a conversation, subscribe to the channel, and I will see y'all next time on Doctrine Deep Dive with DK. Thank you and be blessed.